The Honkai Star Rail community has been buzzing after new Novaflare discussions started circulating, once again coming from the well-known leaker Anonymous Uncle. Interestingly, some of the upgrades he mentioned earlier are now starting to line up with Huohuo's official Novaflare confirmation. Just as the leaker Anonymous Uncle mentioned earlier, Huohuo has confirmed buffs for Firefly, Seele, Huo Huo, and Welt. And with 4.2 being the anniversary patch, players are now paying very close attention to these claims. So today we're taking a look at the Novaflare discussions happening across the community and what these changes could mean for the meta. First, let's talk about Firefly. And honestly, this one surprised a lot of people. Firefly is the last Stellaron hunter to receive the Novaflare treatment, and the crazy part is that she literally just received Dahlia in version 3.8, which massively elevated her performance. The upgrade pushed Firefly straight into Apex tier territory, letting her compete directly with some of the strongest elation units in the current meta. So when players heard that she might also receive a Novaflare buff, the community reaction was immediate. A lot of people started asking the same question. If Firefly is getting even more attention, what about Acheron? Because Acheron is one of the characters most often mentioned whenever the community talks about units that deserve more attention from Huohuo. But at the same time, I actually see Firefly receiving this kind of treatment as a good sign. If even an Apex tier character like Firefly can still receive improvements, it means Huohuo hasn't forgotten the characters players love the most. Firefly is often considered one of the most popular characters in Honkai Star Rail. Some players even call her the most iconic one in the entire game, and that gives hope for older characters who have fallen out of the meta but still have a massive fanbase. So if you're an Acheron main watching this, stay strong, your time will come. Next we have Seele. As the very first limited character in the game, Seele has been one of the most anticipated candidates for Novaflare buffs ever since the system was first leaked. Now that we're entering the third wave of Novaflare upgrades, it looks like Huohuo has finally turned their eyes toward our long-forgotten queen. A lot of players stopped using Seele a long time ago, and with the arrival of the free Archer from the Fate collaboration, she became even more overshadowed, especially since Archer basically stole the spotlight for the Quantum Relic sets. But now it might finally be her moment again. Right now there's huge expectation around potential changes to her traces. Many players want the useless defense upgrades removed and replaced with something actually meaningful for a DPS, like crit rate. Because one of Seele's biggest frustrations has always been those moments where she simply doesn't crit, which completely tanks her damage output. But the biggest discussion by far is about Resurgence. Resurgence has always been the core mechanic of Seele's kit. The problem is that in the current meta, enemies, especially bosses, have extremely high HP pools. That makes it much harder to trigger Resurgence consistently, which drastically lowers Seele's final DPS potential. If Huohuo doesn't improve the multipliers or rethink how Resurgence works in modern combat scenarios, Seele might still struggle even after the buff. Now let's talk about Huo Huo. Huo Huo has been heavily overshadowed recently by stronger sustain options like Permancer Terrae and newer defensive units like Hyacine. Her entire role originally revolved around the energy regeneration provided by her ultimate, but as stronger characters arrived, that regeneration alone started to feel insufficient. On top of that, Huohuo's healing numbers are relatively low compared to modern sustained characters. That often forces players to use her skill repeatedly just to keep the team alive. And that creates a huge problem, because Huo Huo suddenly stops being SP neutral and becomes SP negative, draining the team's skill points just to maintain survivability. If Novaflare addresses those two issues, survivability and SP efficiency, Huo Huo could become extremely relevant again. Especially if the ATK% buff from her ultimate lasts longer. That would be perfect for characters like Sparksy and possibly other elation units like Silverwolf SP or Avanesha. And that could also free Permancer Terrae to be used in teams that actually benefit from his flat ATK buff and defensive tools, instead of just relying on his SP positivity. But overall, Huo's biggest problem right now is simple: keeping the team alive when enemies become extremely aggressive. If Novaflare solves that, she could easily return to the meta. And finally, we have Welt. And honestly, talking about Welt right now is a bit painful, because he's been out of the meta for a very long time. His kit simply doesn't interact well with modern teams anymore. The action delay he applies to enemies just isn't strong enough against bosses with extremely high control resistance. And his damage multipliers aren't strong enough to justify playing him as a main carry either. So right now he kind of feels like an erudition style hypercarry disguised as an agility unit. His original strength, preventing enemies from acting, just isn't reliable anymore in today's boss designs. Which means that eventually the enemy will act, and that action can easily be lethal. Personally, I think Novaflare could take Welt in a completely different direction. Instead of focusing on damage, Huohuo could turn him into a powerful debuff applicator. And that's where things get really interesting, especially when you think about Acheron. Because Acheron's entire kit revolves around stacking debuffs on enemies. So imagine if Welt gained tools like diff reduction, resistance penetration, vulnerability, increased damage taken, or additional stacking debuffs applied consistently. Any of those mechanics would instantly make him an amazing partner for Acheron teams. Every debuff applied would help accelerate Acheron's ultimate and increase the overall damage output of the team. Another possibility would be giving Welt ally action advanced mechanics, something he already shows hints of in his Currency Wars version. Leakers are also saying that he could become part of the future Himiko SP team, which opens even more possibilities for how his Novaflare could reshape his role. And honestly, the potential here is huge. Welt is one of the most beloved characters in the entire Honkai universe. So if Huohuo decides to give him a real rework with Novaflare, the community will definitely be watching closely. So now I'm really curious to hear your opinion. If these Novaflare buffs are actually real, which one do you think will change the meta the most? Firefly, Seele, Huo Huo, or Welt? Let me know down in the comments. There's also a good chance that by the time many of you are watching this video, some of their kits might have already leaked as well. If that happens, don't worry. I'll make sure to cover those too, along with all the upcoming information about Silverwolf SP, Evanescia, and of course our Elation Trailblazer. So that's it for today, and I'll see you in the next one.